broadcasting around the world 24 hours a day. This is Carers World Radio with Patricia Mitchell.
Hello and welcome to this month's programme. In today's programme, we take a look at the new Employers for Carers service, which launched in January, is chaired by BT and supported by Carers UK. We find out why businesses across the United Kingdom are being urged to sign up to Employers for Carers in this time of gloom and doom and recession. We also find out about the Well Spouse Association, which is based in New Jersey, America, and aims to provide emotional peer-to-peer support to the wives, husbands and partners of the chronically ill and disabled. We have Richard Anderson, who's president of the Well Spouse Association, and Diane Newman, who is spousal caregiver, joining us on the programme later. All that and much, much more on this month's Carers World Radio. But first, Counsel and Care is a national charity working with older people, their families and carers to get the best care and support. They provide personalised, in-depth advice and information which informs research and campaigning work. Now, recently they published a new report, Financing and Finding Care in Hard Times. The report highlights the top 5 issues that older people and carers contacted the Counsel for Care Advice Service in 2008 for. And now I'm pleased to say that we've got on the line Anna Passingham. Now, she's Senior Policy and Communications Officer and author of the report. Anna, thanks so much for joining us today. This report, I can't remember, is it 10 or 12 pages? And whenever I get reports through, I think, oh gosh, here we go. Yeah. But it was actually really, it's a very good read, and it's an interesting read because basically you've taken a lot of the issues and you've made them very understandable. But in terms of our audience, what did you find to be the 5 top issues that people were contacting you at the helpline in order to have clarified that they were confused about or concerned about?
Well, I mean, they are complex issues, and it's great that you feel that we've made them a bit more accessible, really, because it does affect a lot of older people. And the number one issue that came to our advice service was worries about how to pay for a care home stay. And it actually made up 30% of all calls to our advice service. In particular, people were concerned about the prospect of having to use large amounts of savings to pay for care. The emotional feeling of not being able to pass on inheritance to their grandchildren or children that they thought they might be able to. And also fears about the costs of care and how they're ever increasing. So, I mean, that was the top issue.
Well, I have to say thank you so much for making that a little bit more understandable. Thanks so much for publishing the report, Anna, and also a great work with the helpline. And obviously we're going to have the link on the website. Thanks very much for mentioning it, and thanks for coming on the show, Anna. Lovely to talk to you today.
My pleasure, Patricia. Thank you.
The World Spouse Association is a national, not-for-profit organisation founded in 1988 by author and spousal caregiver Maggie Strong. The association aims to provide emotional peer-to-peer support to the wives, husbands and partners of the chronically ill and disabled via various means. Now, to tell us more about the Well Spouse Association is Richard Anderson, president of Well Spouse Association, and Diane Newman, who's a spousal caregiver. Richard and Diane, lovely to have you on the programme. What I noticed mostly about the Well Spouse Association, from what I saw on the website, was that it sort of almost came from nothing in a bizarre way, didn't it, Richard? It came from an idea far more than a thought-out concept that just sort of took off like Billy-O. It just sort of just grew and grew and grew. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. That's correct. Family caregivers in the United States are a large group, and they're starting to be recognized much more widely. But spousal caregivers were never seen as being any different from any other family caregiver until Maggie Strong wrote her book. And at the end of the book, she had her sentence that said, National Well Spouses, why don't we get together? Send me a postcard. And she was amazed at the response she got. And she kept having people coming up to her in the book tour, saying, your story is my story.
Now, I noticed that the Well Spouse Association also has a sort of a leaning, if you like, for younger caregivers, spousal caregivers as well. And with that in mind, we've actually got Diane Newman on the line. Hi, Diane. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Now, how did you discover the Well Spouse Association, and how does it work in terms of supporting you as a long-term caregiver for your husband?
I accidentally found it one day online. I had entered in the word caregiver. For many, many years, I didn't even know that I was a caregiver. And then I actually just happenstance met a woman who said it was National Family Caregivers Month, which is in November in the United States. And so I was like, Caregiver Month? So anyway, I searched caregiver, and I found the Well Spouse Association. That was probably 4 or 5 years into my caregiving role with my husband. We have been married about 7 years, and I remember going online, and they have a forum where people can post their thoughts and feelings and what they're experiencing, and I went on there and I was reading what other caregivers had written, and I was reading these feelings, and I was like, oh my goodness, that is me. I am normal. And that was just the greatest sense of relief I think I have ever felt my entire life. Just knowing that I wasn't alone, and knowing that these feelings that I had, it wasn't because I was a horrible person. It wasn't because I was just terrible at dealing with this. It was normal. And that was just the biggest sense of relief, and just to be able to talk to people and see how they've gone through things and how they've gotten through things.
The new Employers for Carers service launched in January and aims to help businesses get the most out of their workforces. The group will deliver hands-on advice to employers on supporting the UK's 3 million working carers, many of whom are struggling to combine work with caring for ill, frail or disabled friends or family members. Businesses across the United Kingdom are being urged to sign up to the Employers for Carers to access expert guidance and legal advice on setting up carer-friendly employment policies, including flexible working practices, which can deliver real business advantage to large and small businesses under pressure. Well, to tell us more, we have Madeline Starr, Strategic Projects Manager from Carers UK on the line. Madeline, as always, a great pleasure to speak to you. But Madeline, maybe we can start by sort of explaining what is the difference between what you're doing now and what you have been doing, because you and Carers UK and indeed ourselves here at Carers World Radio have often been involved in spreading the word about the benefits of employment for carers. So what is different about what was launched in January?
I think, Patricia, the important thing is that this takes what we can provide, what we can deliver to employers one step further. You're right, we've done a lot of work, and indeed we've done a lot of work together on the Carers and Employment agenda. And Employers for Carers as an interest group has been around now for a good 7 years, 6 or 7 years, so that in itself is a huge achievement. But our role initially as we really pushed this agenda forward was to influence government, was to influence policy, was to push for better employment rights for carers, to actually raise awareness of the issues that working carers face, working carers or those seeking to return to work. And I think that was an influential and very successful group. And as you'll know, we did with that group, alongside our policy and influencing work, develop resources for employers, a good website, an assessment tool, case studies, practical things that employers could use.
But and a huge amount of awareness building as well, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, we ran as many publicity campaigns as we could, and of course we have been doing a lot of training over the years. But we got together last year as a group, and we wanted to talk about where we took the group next, how we took that to another level. And what we decided is that we would repackage, if you like, Employers for Carers itself as a membership forum, so that we actually provided a service to employers that we could market to employers. And in that way, we could promote not only the issue, but promote the service.